All right, welcome back to SK Hobbies AZ, and I am Stitch. And as you can see, I got the Axial base camp sitting on the bench. Actually, I have all three sitting on the bench here. But yes, we're going to do a 6-month review on the Axial base camp, so stay tuned. All right, well, welcome back. So yes, we are going to do a 6-month review after owning these for actually over 6 months. I've owned this blue one for almost 7 months now, and we acquired these two, and they were Christmas presents for my wife, which this one's my wife's rig, the green one, and this gray one here is my youngest son Logan's rig. So after 6 months, my thoughts. Well, to sum it up, I own 3 of them now. So if I felt that I liked this one that much to get 2 more, I think I really like them. But let's talk about some of the changes I've done for these and the reasons why. Stock, the tires, you know, they're not really the greatest tires for crawling. They're very hard, and that's why we went with these Hyrax. So these Hyrax tires, if you guys can see here, we here in Arizona, we like the G8 compound. So they're a little bit stiffer, and you know the Predator compound here in Arizona, you know, it just doesn't grip up as good. Now, wherever you're at, I would check with your local crawling group to find out what, you know, compound they're using, because there are people that, you know, like that Predator compound versus, you know, the G8 compound. And if you're not using Hyrax, you're using something else, you know, find something that's equivalent to your area in compound. But here in Arizona, the G8 seems to hook up really nice on our rocks out. You know, I did upgrade mine to these bead lock. These are just, you know, the Endura bead locks, or Endura bead locks, however you want to say them. And I really like, you know, having a bead lock. I mean, I don't really need to spend too much money on bead locks, because I think the Endura ones run just as good. There's, I guess, other features. You could get some that are weighted, but we'll talk about the weight that I added and the reasons why I added that weight. Body-wise, this body's held up pretty good. If you guys have been watching some of my videos and some of my YouTube shorts, I mean, all in all, I don't see what people are complaining about the body. The body did held up really good, especially on some really hard tumbles that I've had. There's some nicks and scratches you can see on the windows. You know, there's some on that side. You got some on this side. You know, there's some scratches. You know, I mean, it tore up some of my stickers in the tumbles. But, you know, the inside, it's pretty dang good. I don't really have any major damage to this, you know, to this body. These ones, you know, we've had only for about a month and a half now. So with that being said, you know, I can't really tell you if these bodies held up, but based on my blue one here that I've had for the 7 months, it's done really good. Upgrades, there are some upgrades that I did because they were needed, and then there were some upgrades I did because I wanted them. So the primary upgrade from here were the shock towers. So I got the Rock Pirates RC shock towers, got those installed, and the reason why is because if you look right here where the panhard mounts on the bottom of the shock tower. So the one that comes on the base camp is actually outside on the frame, and then the one for the Rock Pirates, that when they incorporate it in, kind of brings it a little bit tighter in. So it actually goes right behind the servo horn on this one. And it works really good. So I really like that upgrade on the shock towers. With that, I did show in a previous video on a modification you can do if you don't want to change out your body mounts and buy the additional body mounts from Rock Pirates RC. You can reuse your original body mounts. The rears actually mount up fairly easy. I just had to put some washer spacers because it's a little bit wider space there, and I was able to utilize that. In my front, I actually just zip tied it or tie wrapped it between the two shock towers in the place and secured it down, and it worked good for several months. Actually, I want to say I had it there for about 4 months. It wasn't until I picked up these two new ones that when I ordered the new shock towers for these two, I decided to spend a little bit extra and get the Rock Pirates body mounts, which you can see right here. And we got those kind of installed right there. Other than that, you know, besides the electronics, the other upgrade, and I haven't really seen them on these guys. If we go ahead and we'll bring my sons over here. Your linkage. Now, this is a 3-link in the front, 4 links in the rear, but these are really thin. And I happened to notice after, and actually I noticed at that 3-month review that one of mine was bent. And I can't not remember, I'll have to go back to my videos and look, and you know, I apologize to that. But one of these were bent. So what I did is I went to eBay and picked up somebody that was selling a complete set of the links for the SCX10 the JKs, and picked up those links. I want to say I paid like 30 bucks for the complete set of links off of there. Got them swapped out, and I've not had any issues since. Now, we've done, I think, 2 crawling sessions with these bad boys since we've had them, and we haven't had any bendage on any of their links. And we'll even look at my wife's rig right here and show you guys that. But see, I'm not seeing any bendage on the linkage, so everything seems to be running fairly good on them. But I will be changing those out when it comes to those, you know, the linkage. I just think that having a little bit beefier link down there. I'm actually looking at maybe picking up some of the incision linkage from Vanquished RC and try throwing some of that on there, because they do have their titanium ones, so it's a lot lighter. So we'll see. I haven't quite made my decision on that yet, or if I'm going to buy another set off of eBay when it comes to the linkage. Shocks, I've not really seen any linkage. Now, when I did get these two in the box, when I opened it up, because I didn't really do an unboxing video of these guys, because I already did an unboxing on the blue one, there was underneath the RC, right around the rear shocks on both of them, there was a little bit of like dampness in the on the cardboard. So I'm assuming the shocks leaked. But what I did is I went through and pulled these shocks all apart, checked them, made sure that the O-rings looked good, put it all back together, put fresh fluid in it, and haven't had any leakage since. And a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll be looking at the rear down here, especially when we're crawling and we go through a lot of dirt and stuff. I'll look to see what kind of buildup I've got down here. If I have a lot of buildup, especially here in Arizona when it's not really wet or damp outside, I'll look for that and see if there's any buildup. But I have not had any issues. Matter of fact, the 3 RCs sitting in front of you, I haven't even cleaned them. Haven't even cleaned them since we went crawling for our Christmas crawl with the family. And you know, they could. I see a little bit of dirt in there, but all in all, no leakage on it. Now, before that crawl that I did swap out the electronics on mine. So originally I had a Holmes Hobby motor in it, and I had a 1080 ESC. And the Holmes Hobby motor was the Expert, which is actually over here in my son's rig now. But it's the Expert, and it is the 13T with that Holmes Hobby setup. And then on, but I swapped out the electronics. I put in a new 2700 kV Polar Pro with a Copperhead 10 ESC right here. And what I did is, and I haven't swapped this out yet because for one, Castles, they're crummy on their frickin' switches, just letting you guys know. But I actually mounted the switch on the back battery tray and left that battery tray in here. I've left the second battery tray, even though I don't use bigger batteries in these guys, I only use the battery on the side. I left this in here and I mounted my switch on this one. And also on my wife's rig over here, I did the same thing and just mounted that switch there. It's out of the way. It's easy to reach. When you're on the under the shell, you just come up on the corner and turn it on with your finger. So with that, I did upgrade the electronics. Now, what were my thoughts on the original electronics in it? And I think I might have covered that in the 3-month review of this, is that I didn't really have an issue with the electronics. My primary concern with the Spectrum electronics that was in it was the fact there was no on and off switch. So with running with my kids, I want them to have the ability to turn their RC on and off, and then I can get to it eventually, you know, when we get back to the vehicle, to unplug the battery. So having a power switch is, you know, a necessity for me and my family. With that being said, there are some people that don't mind not having the switch. And some people with these Castle systems, they don't like these switches. They rip them off, they, you know, solder the wires together, or they twist them together and tape them up and be done with it. And they're okay with plugging and unplugging their battery when turn it on and off. So for me, that was a con, not having a power switch. So all my ESCs, like even the 1080 ESC, had a little power switch, and it's easy for my kids to turn it on and off, because it's not just me and my wife, it's me, my wife, and all of my kids. We all have our own RCs. So with that, it was important to have that switch. So that's why we swapped out our electronics. But I didn't really see an issue with the crawling on that Spectrum system that was in there. Now, I did change all of mine over to XT60s. You can see right here. That's because the batteries we use are all XT60 batteries. And as a matter of fact, all of my RCs run this XT60 connector. So pretty much I could put any battery in it that I wanted if I wanted to, except for my 4 and 6S batteries that I have for my bashers. They're running the XT90. Controllers. Never really been a fan of the stock controller of, you know, these the SLT3 controller. I got big fingers. It's kind of hard for me to get my finger onto that trigger. So other than that, I mean, it worked. I don't like the little manual adjustment that we have to do. So I upgrade all of mine to be controlled by one of my FlySky controllers. Now, we haven't always been on the FlySky controllers. We had the Spectrum DX5C, and both me and my wife had one. My son did not. My son had a FlySky, I think it was the GT5, and that's what he was using for the longest time. And it seemed like I had minimal issues with his FlySky over the issues I had with my Spectrum controller. Especially when it came to the power switch. The power switch, it kept getting stuck. And so then I'd have to take the controller apart, clean out any dirt that was around it, put it all back together, and it just became a maintenance item for me on that. So with that, I know that there's mixed reviews on using these FlySky Noble. This is the MB4, the Noble. And then also we use a Noble Pro, which I didn't bring them out here, and that's what me and my wife have. Basically identical to this, except for it's a different color. And it has the capability of putting our cell phones on the front. So both me and my wife can have our cell phone up here, and it comes in really handy when we're doing our SCX24 stuff. Haven't really used it when we got done the 10 scale crawlers, because usually I got the camera strapped to me. I usually have one on my wife and one on my son, and when we go out, we have a good time. So getting a good controller for it, I think was not a necessity, but it was something I wanted. Other electronics, we upgraded our servos. Now the servos that were in it were okay, but especially when you were climbing up a rock, that stock Spectrum servo, you just didn't have the torque enough to get your wheels over or to do a wiggle to try to shift yourself over. Me and my wife, me and my wife's rig, we went a little bit extreme. I got the Reefs 777 in both of ours, and they're a direct powered servo, so they're actually powered directly from the battery. And I made a little jumper cable that came down in one of my videos that showed that. And then, you know, we also added an 800 IS winch to both of ours, which we still haven't used yet. We're going to get a video going on us actually using that. Now, over in my son's rig, we went completely different. We actually used some of our older electronics. You know, he got grandfathered in from our previous builds because we put the new stuff in ours, and my son got, of course, he got my old electronics out of mine with the 1080 ESC, and he got the Crawlmaster Expert 13T. Servo-wise, he got my MKS servo out of it, and it was definitely a good servo. Me personally, I really don't see too much of a difference between running that MKS versus the Reefs 777. And the MKS servo we're using is the MBL 550, and I'll put it up on the screen here just in case I messed up those numbers, because I'm human and I will mess up. But needless to say, we got those. Actually was turned on to these by that Scale RC show. It's actually a podcast, and now they're on YouTube. They were both MKS drivers, and you know, they really liked the servo. Never heard of MKS before, so decided to buy one, and it turned out to be a good buy in my book. Now, do you really need to spend the money on an MKS one? I think this one was about 130 bucks per se, but I'll put a link up on the screen showing you what the current price is for an MKS one. But the Reefs 500 servos, I think that they would work perfectly fine. And this is the raw 500. This would be awesome. You don't need to go straight up to a 777, a 555 in the Reef servo would be fine. A lot of my RCs are all getting the Reefs servos in them right now. So, I mean, even including my minis and my 24 scale, they're all getting that Reefs 99 servo. So I really like Reefs products. He's got good customer support. And on top of that, these are rebuildable. So you can go onto his website or even on A-Main and buy the whole gear set up on top and replace your gears and then be back in business. So I do like that aspect. The winches, they seem to be, you know, they perform awesome. And I did a whole video on how to program the Noble MB4 on the Pro, on how to program the servo so you get the servo control. After that, it was basically weight. And I did add some weight to this RC. Primarily, what I added was I added the wheel weights on the inside, and those are the SSD wheel weights. And I added a Samex front diff cover right here. So that's that front axle diff cover, and I added that, and I believe that's at the 52 grams. So I did add that front weight. In the rear, I also I put some of the SSD weights on the portal weights, and so these are the weights that go on that replace your outside portal cover, and they're by SSD. And you just pull off your old cover, put on your new one, set it and forget it. So I did add that, and that's all the weight I added on the rear. I didn't do a diff cover on the rear. I don't know if I'm going to need one. I think maybe even the front diff cover on the front was more weight than I really needed up front, and I may reduce that down. There's a little tab in there you can pull off that adds that additional weight, and if you pull it out, you're at like 47 grams. So I may end up doing that. It depends. But I haven't really had any issues coming down a hill where my back end starts flopping up. But we'll see. We'll see what happens down the road. And I did that to all three rigs. So my wife got the same electronics. She got the 27 kV or 2700 kV Puller Pro. She got the Castle Copperhead 10 ESC. She got the same servo and the same winch. Hers is set up identical to mine. The only difference is the color of rims. Now, we are running the Proline dual stage foams in both of our tires, both mine and my wife's rig. My son's rig does not. It has the stock foams that come with the high racks. So eventually I'll get him some double stage foams, but I've actually been looking at Crawler Innovation. I'm possibly getting some of their foam for the tires. I've also been looking at Flubber Stuffers. They make some cool sidewall support style inserts for the 24 scales, and there's rumor that they're going to be coming out with stuff for some 10th scale size tires. So I might be looking at getting a set of those and try them out also. Other than that, I don't have any major complaints anymore after those modifications. But primarily, when you get this, it's an awesome platform. There's definitely other platforms to start with, but that's why they call this the base camp. This is the base of what you build off of. 9 times out of 10, people buy them, swap out the electronics, put a different body on it, add some weight, and go to town. And it doesn't really look as a base camp anymore. We've primarily kept ours as a base camp. I love the transmission. I'm not a fan of the standard transmission that comes in the SCX10 like the JL and the Gladiator and those ones. I'm just not a fan of that one. It's annoying, the sound that comes out of them. And I have one, and I built one. That's the Forerunner one that I have on my channel. And that one's actually going to get a complete makeover with a new transmission. I'm going to show you guys a video on that one here in the future of the modifications that are going to happen to that bad boy. But with these, not much more we're going to do to them. The only thing I got coming for these guys is possibly some new bodies, some nice paint jobs, and decaled up, and then we're going to rock these bad boys for a while. So just hopefully Axial don't come out with a version 2 of these, and then I'm going to get the itch to want the V2. So I hope that I informed everybody, on what my concerns were with them. I really, there's not very much of a concern other than putting those shock towers. I mean, getting these Rock Pirate ones, you get more selection of where you can angle your shocks. You get a little bit more angling there. Gives you a little bit better profile. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to venture on to doing an Interceptor chassis from Rock Pirates RC and doing a complete makeover on this. But we might take one of them and do one of those chassis from Rock Pirates RC and see how things go from there.
Well, all right. Well, I was cooped up in that garage way too long doing that video. So anyways, hopefully it was informative for you. I had to get outside. I got some crawling to do out here. You guys got any questions, jump down in that comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bash that bell. I'm Stitch, SK Hobbies AZ, and I'm out.